Richard Hildebrand from Ohio. I understood from your assistant that you were working on a bill to eliminate CRT in Ohio. Is that true or not?
Critical race theory, CRT.
Yes.
Yes. There are two bills. I think I co-sponsor both those bills. Diane Grindell, Representative Grindell has a bill, and Representative Jones, Don Jones has a bill. I've co-sponsored both. I don't believe that critical race theory needs to be taught in our schools. I think we need to get back to the basics. Reading,
it's already in the family school system. Yeah. You got to do something quickly to get this stuff out of there.
We certainly want to make sure that school board members should be held accountable. They are duly elected, and the school boards need to be making that decision. But from the state's perspective, because we help fund the school districts, I want to make sure that $9 million that we're about to give them goes to reading, writing, and arithmetic, and get people ready for careers, get people ready for the workforce, and not get off the basic fundamental educational.
How soon do you expect that bill to be voted on?
I'm hopeful that the bill will move, one of the two bills will move when we come back into session in September. So,
what can we do as a community to help push that?
Certainly continue to welcome your emails and phone calls to my office, because the more you guys, give it the 1-2 and you give us a good holler, we can show that our constituency has concerns. So please, call it. The email is rep83, rep83 at ohiohouse.gov, or call our office at 614-466-3819. But also, don't be afraid to contact other legislators, but it's really the legislature's job to pass those bills if that's the intention of the legislature.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you give your email again?
Sure. Rep83, rep83 at ohiohouse.gov, G-O-V. And both Court and I were able to see those emails when they come in.
And that phone number?
614-466-3819.
Hi, Michelle Lottis from Kenton, and election fraud is big in the news, well, not in the news, on frankspeech.com for the symposium up in South Dakota. Didn't know if you were following it, what you think that's going to mean. They have irrefutable proof about election fraud not happening in the buildings itself, but after the votes went out of the buildings, that they were tampered with, and through the Dominion systems and whatnot. So do you expect that to come down through Ohio, go into bills, or are you hearing anything about it?
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. We certainly have election laws right now, election legislation. Representative Bill Seitz and Sharon Ray have a bill to what I thought was a fairly decent election cycle for Ohio. Not necessarily can say the same about other states. There's always room for improvement. In this elections bill, we look at everything from, limiting and scoping elections to making sure there's not drop boxes in every street corner that could just be fraudulently attacked, cybersecurity issues. I just remember as a 16-year-old, or 18-year-old, when I was voting, I think, Mom, was it just election day, right? I mean, it's just election day. You just voted on election day. We give you 60 days, we do everything but buy a cheeseburger at McDonald's to incentivize you to go vote. So I think we're just looking at making sure we don't have any continuation of fraud or abuse in Ohio elections. And most importantly, we follow our Constitution. It's the job of the legislature, not the governor, not the Secretary of State, to determine the date, the time, and the location of elections. I don't care if you have COVID or the sniffles. We're not moving elections. That's our job. So, Michelle, I've not seen what you've provided me. I'll certainly be paying attention to it. And we do have an elections bill in the Republican caucus that we're moving. I hate to bring politics into this, but I think it's the right time, because when your Republicans have won by 8 points in Ohio, we're we're not looking like sore losers here. We're saying, listen, every state needs to go back and evaluate election laws and make sure that we have the integrity of an election in place. And that's what we're doing right now through some legislation. Thank you for your question. Please, don't be shy. You can make a line.
Hi, my name's Alan Campbell, I live here in Finley. I brought up to you about World War earlier, concerns that me and other coworkers do have is, they are talking about the mandates on getting the vaccine.
And they just said, no, you have to wear a mask.
That we do have to wear a mask. They do give us the option to wear a shield if going through a particular health program. The concern I have is that I've given them alternatives to not taking the vaccine by being able to take hydrochloroquine with zinc and vitamin D regimens, ivermectin, alvestron. They have 17 cures out there that are FDA approved and have been for decades, but yet they said, no, those don't work. So we can't accept those, in other words. You have to take the vaccine. And I feel that's going against my rights, especially when I know when I was in the military, I was given hydrochloroquine as a preventative measure towards malaria. Anytime we went out of state. So I don't want to lose my job, but I've given them an alternative of something that is a cure and a prophylactic, and they're saying no.
So I could go down a rabbit hole on any one of these issues, but it doesn't make sense to me. What about your colleagues that got the vaccination?
The ones that have gotten the vaccine,
They still have to wear masks.
They do now, but
That's what I
at
was
the very beginning, when they 2 weeks ago when they dropped the mask mandate, it was only supposed to be for the vaccinated.
If the intent from the government is to tell you to get vaccinated, and then the companies are saying now you have to wear a mask, I'm not sure how you can incentivize or get people excited to take the vaccination if they have to do both.
Well, they're saying it's because of this Delta variant, and we also know that each time you start with an alpha and you keep going
Alpha,
down,
Omega,
they
it'll be a
go
John
through
Cross variant before you know
they
it.
go through the different variants. It weakens every time. So if I had a 99% chance with just the alpha of recovery, just with my own immune system, then if it is at the Delta stage, it's even weaker, so I'm just fine.
Well, Whirlpool can't build beautiful dishwashers if they don't have a workforce.
Yeah, it's true. And so I don't want to lose my job, but at the same time, I don't want to compromise my belief in something that I know does work versus something I have no idea about.
Let me ask this. I didn't do this at the last time. I want to. If you'd be honest with me, and if you want to, you can. If you don't, you don't have to. But how many of you would like for me to vote to not, let me try to phrase this correctly. How many, raise your hand if you would like for me to tell private sector businesses no mandates, no vaccinations?
100%.
How many of you would like me to vote not to tell a private sector business that they can't mandate masks or? Good, honest, good feedback. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. I don't have the answer for you right now, but I understand that there's a balance because companies can't make things, produce things, or sell things if they don't have a workforce. It's not easy to find people. I would really hope common sense would prevail.
But you did mention a House Bill 248. Would that be something?
248 would prevent from them showing their passport and no mandates. I don't know about the mask, but it's
Vaccine mandates? Okay. Well, I'll be watching for that. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ellie. I don't have a question per se, but more a concern that I need to voice. I'm a pediatric nurse of 15 years, but tonight I'm here as a concerned mom. I'm not usually one to speak out, but I would be doing my three children a disservice if I didn't stand up here and advocate for them. There have been countless conflicting opinions regarding the masking of our children in schools. I'm not here to belittle or judge parents who choose to mask their kids, But I am here to say I will do everything in my power to ensure my kids can have the very basic freedom of breathing clean air during the school year. Here are just a few reasons why I am committed to ensuring every child's right to fresh air, to learn unabated and to have a mask-free school year. COVID-19 is spread through aerosolized droplets. These droplets are so small that they pass through cloth and even surgical masks that are worn perfectly by medical professionals. Masks are rarely worn properly by children. They get wet, brush up against multiple surfaces while being hung around a lanyard on a child's neck, and are constantly being touched. Children are forced to rebreathe viral and bacterial particles that get caught in their masks. I've seen herpes outbreaks on kids' faces because they switch masks with each other during the school day. In fact, my own child is treated for a fungal infection around his mouth from the moist environment his mask harbored against his skin. All of these scenarios I just described actually increase the transmission of infections in children instead of decreasing the infection rate, the goal of masking. According to the American Academy of Pediatrics, severe COVID illness is rare among children. Additionally, the WHO states asymptomatic spread is very rare. Kids are more at risk for getting sick from the seasonal flu and RSV. In addition to the health hazards encountered by young children who are forced to mask up during school hours, they also face educational and mental health challenges. Masks prevent children from visualizing their teacher's mouth, which prohibits them from being able to develop their phonics, speech and language skills. Again, we are doing a disservice to our children's natural development. Lastly, and probably most heart-wrenching to me personally, masks negatively affect children's mental health. Based on my experience, masks resist a child's ability to normally interact with peers, which has led to an increase in depression and anxiety among our children across the country. No matter which side of the masking debate you're on, I ask you to please refrain from making the health, safety, and well-being of our children a political issue. Right now, adults have the right to choose whether to mask up at grocery stores, concerts, baseball games, and other public gatherings. Today, I ask the school boards and taxpayers to support them to give parents the freedom of choice and to allow them to decide what is best for their children. I kindly ask the school boards to fulfill their obligation as civil servants and do what is best for their students, their families, and their communities.
Thank you for your comments, I appreciate it. I know it's not easy, and as a parent with two boys, I have a hard time finding the balance of being dad and being a politician. And it certainly made me upset this summer, or in the springtime, hot out, the kids are out, every 4-H program, they're forced to wear masks outdoors in 80-degree weather, building rockets 6 feet apart, and I wasn't happy about that. So, my only comment to you is I hear you, and I will take that and consume that. I agree with you on that. I also think today, and unless I'm wrong, I was text messages that Dr. Fauci is now asking all teachers to be vaccinated. I think the point to your letter is let your local school boards make what is the best decisions for their students in education, transportation, healthcare, parents, absolutely, mom and dad, absolutely, 100%. I just think when we can allow it to go to the most local, natural level of decision making, it generally works the best. In Hardin County, all of our school districts, I think, have announced there will be no mask mandates in the school districts. And I'm watching what's happening over here, and I would be advocating the same to our superintendents. So thank you for your comments. Let me say this. This also happened too, and I want to say this because I've been waiting to say this. I had a guy email me, called me every name under the sun, and when he submitted the form, it left his phone number. So I called him. His name is Tim. I'll tell you who else he is. He's a constituent. And after the first 60 seconds of him yelling at me because I was a Donald Trump Republican, anti this and horrible that, I let him talk. Yes, I'm a Republican. Yes, he's a Democrat. Yes, he doesn't like the fact that I support the issues and causes I do. But I needed to let him vent because I finally got to the real issue. He finally said to me, after all of the stuff we see on CNN and Fox News, I said, Tim, okay, you ready to have a real conversation? He goes, I'm just a grandfather who's concerned for the safety of my grandchildren. That's the real reason. Not because he hated me because I was a Republican, pro-Trump, pro-Ohio, pro-First America. It's because the real issue finally came out when we put all those stupid bullshit politics aside and he had an honest conversation with me. And I feel bad for him because he only wants the masking of his grandchildren because the issue is he wants his grandchildren to stay alive. And so I finally allowed him to, we just had to go through the awkward exchange, and that once we got past that, the real issue came about. And I think that's the problem. We're letting, the national politics of this get in the way of what people are really feeling. At the end of the day, nobody wants to die from this. Nobody wants to get sick from this. And it's a balance of making sure we're protecting your rights and freedoms, making sure we're not overstepping our constitutional bounds, and making sure we're keeping people healthy and safe. And if everyone thinks they have the perfect answer solution to that, I'm all ears because I haven't heard it yet. You probably won't because it's too complicated, but thank you for your comments. Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Rick Rodebaugh. I'm from Findlay, and that was my second item, and it's a superb job. But my first item is, if we don't have fair elections, we don't have a country. And guys like you wouldn't be sitting where you're at. Yeah, I kind of couch potatoed today watching the cyber symposium myself. And I learned some interesting things. 3,600 counties in the United States of America. 11% of those counties had more votes than they had population. That's staggering, 11%. You had indicated that Trump had won the state of Ohio. Thank goodness he won the state of Ohio. But was it 8 points? According to the symposium today, it was 16 points. How can we be assured of fair election?
Hey, John, do that.
I think there's a lot of ways you can look at this. Our Secretary of State has said there was no.
All those in favor of a forensic audit for the state of Ohio?
I'm not opposed to any of that. I mean, my point was we can sit here and continue to write bills and write legislation, and we'll get criticized for saying that we are trying to, downsize the election or suppress voters. Every time Republicans try to take care of election law, the other side says, well, you're suppressing our vote. It's about after the voting is completed. At 7:30 at night, when the election's over, the election's over. We don't keep counting ballots, so we don't say, well, how much are we down? What do we need to do to get a few more votes in? The election should be over. So I still think looking at some auditing, fine, absolutely. Spend the money, it's worth it. But I think we've got to make sure that when the election is over, it's over. And that we're not 3 months into counting bills. Now that doesn't necessarily happen in Ohio, because typically in Ohio we get our election results in and completed at least by the next day, historically. But I can't change Pennsylvania. I can't change.
This is Ohio. What is the difference?
So I guess I'll walk away from this taking a recommendation on the forensic audit. We would certainly look at that.
Or how can we be assured that our vote counts for who is elected. It's all based on making sure that the equipment we use, how we cast the votes, how the votes are handled, it all has to be, make sure that it's done the legal way. And I would just say that some of us in this room think that the election was fine in Ohio, other people don't. And I would just say that I'm not opposed to looking at any venue or any way possible to ensure the trust of the voters, that when you make your vote on election night, that you know you're voting for the person you wanted to.
Paper ballot.
So I'm open to suggestions. And forensic audit, great. I would like to see a few more tweaks into the legislation we're working on for election law now, and I'm open to any other options that anyone has. I don't have the perfect answer for you.
How do we prevent the cyber attacks?
We've invested money. I know in Hardin County and other county board of elections, they put all new computer equipment in, and I've saw the demonstrations of the software to make sure we're not being hacked by other countries. It is a real thing. Or if it wasn't a real thing, we wouldn't be spending millions of dollars to put computer equipment. I did see that. I was in our Hardin County Board of Elections room that you got to do 3 knocks and spin the wheel and passcode this and turnkey this, and you finally got in the room. And I said, why? And they said, because we get hacked. I mean, folks, we get hacked. Go ask your auditor or your treasurer. We get hacked from all countries all day. The government does. I mean, our printers, Court, do we get our printers working at the State House yet? Today, Russia hacked our printers. China, somebody hacked our printers, and I couldn't print legislation to drop the bill. It's happening. So for anyone that tells me it's not happening, I've got proof that it's happening.
Why do you get rid of the machines and just have paper ballots? Just have paper ballots. Election day.
I'm open to any suggestion.
Go to work for him.
Thank you.
Go count the votes yourself. Then you know you got it right.
Come on up.
Hi, I'm Kyle Starkey, Finley, and I just wanted to know, why aren't you a co-sponsor on one of the HB 248 or 350? Why aren't
350,
you?
I think we did co-sponsor. We co-sponsor 350? Al Catrona? Oh, nobody did? Oh. So let me just talk to you about the process. So Al Catrona dropped his bill because he needed to get it in the bucket quick, and he didn't ask for anyone to co-sponsor. So that's why there's no co-sponsors on the bill. The only reason why I didn't co-sponsor 248 is because I thought she needed to scope the bill to COVID vaccinations, because I didn't think the bill was going to go anywhere if she didn't, and she wasn't willing to do it. So I just wanted to wait a little longer until I felt I need that the bill would really move. But like I said, if 248 comes to the floor, regardless of how it's scoped, I would vote for it.
What would it take to get you to co-sponsor?
Well, it's a process. It's just a process thing. I can't co-sponsor the bill once it's been dropped. The only time I can co-sponsor when the bill comes to the House floor and I can push the button. So there's only 2 ways to co-sponsor. Co-sponsor before the bill gets dropped. Once it's dropped, nobody can co-sponsor until it gets out of committee and goes to the House floor. And then you can either co-sponsor, or in some cases you can pull your name off of a bill. It's just a process thing.
You can help her get it passed.
Yes, absolutely. It could be an advocate, for sure. Thank you. Good question, because sometimes people don't understand how the process works.
I'm Selena Finley. You voted yes on Senate Bill 52 and also on House Bill 6. They're both similar. The Senate House Bill 6 bailed out the coal and nuclear energy. And the Bill 52 you voted yes on that, which represents a kill switch on wind and solar energy that would allow county commissioners to block. I think it's a bit funny that county commissioners don't have the same authority to block fossil fuels. And I'm just wondering, do you take money from fossil fuel industry with a payback being that you would vote against the solar and wind? I think that we should be supporting clean energy.
So, Senate Bill 52, House Bill 6, 2 different policies. Senate Bill 52 I was very supportive, actually was supportive of the original bill that would allow the township trustees to decide whether they would like renewable energy projects in Ohio. We're in the Edison era of the renewables, and there's a lot of projects coming to Ohio, and particularly Northwest Ohio. And what I don't think is right is once again, I think you see my trend, I don't think it's right that we do not allow local decisions in these processes. Right now, if a township is zoned, a zoned township cannot stop or disallow a wind or solar project to come in. It's decided by Columbus, Ohio, and the governor's appointees through PUCO. What we wanted is local representation, and so we had enough votes to allow the county commissioners to make a decision whether their county and or communities and or locations in Hancock County would like to have wind or solar projects. What I would tell you is not all counties and not all communities are the same. I have a 4,000 acre solar project in Hardin County, zero, zippo, no one's complaining. In Hancock County, we've heard different opinions on wind and solar projects. So Senate Bill 52 is just making sure that we have a local voice and a local representation at the table for decision making, because I don't want Columbus, Ohio to decide what Findlay gets or not gets. House Bill 6 was to make sure that we saved our nuclear plants, and I still would save our nuclear plants if we today, but I guess timing is everything from what I've learned. The federal government's now stepping up more and wanting to save nuclear plants. You saw what happened in Texas when they think they could run their energy grid off solar panels and wind turbines only. I want everything. I'm the above, below, behind the meter, in front of the meter, coal, gas, oil, marathon, a guy running to create energy. Whatever we do to generate energy, I want it all. Because in Ohio, we don't generate enough energy. So when I walked in here tonight and I turned those light switches on, we just assumed the power's going to be there. And guess what? I base my energy knowledge off my AEP bill. When I get my AEP bill and it's $200 a month, I know we're okay. In December, when I run the Christmas tree lights too much and it goes to $250, I tell my wife, we got to turn the Christmas tree lights off because I don't want to pay an extra $50. That's how I determine energy policy. If you lose your nuclear plants, y'all are going to have really big, thick envelopes because we don't generate enough. And so we have to go out to 13 other states to get more energy because our demand is so large. So if I can get any form, wind, solar, gas, oil, coal, I want it all. And I want it all here in Ohio because we need to generate more. And I'd like to be like New York or Texas, where that state can generate enough power for their own demand and not have to rely on a 13 market, PGM market for extra energy.
But why shouldn't local commissioners be allowed to block coal and nuclear? If they can block solar and wind, why can't they have the same right to block the other?
Well, probably just because of different regulations for different. So I'm not sure we're putting nuclear plants in the amount of regulation. Basically, you're not going to build nuclear plants in the United States because the last one was built, took 25 years and billions of dollars. And no one's going to sustain that. But it's dealing with the phenomenon of not having any rules and regulations in the Ohio Revised Code and dealing with a newer technology that's coming into the area. Now, let me be honest. I see we've got some folks here that are supporting wind and solar, and I will say this. What I would like to see is I think we would be more welcoming community for wind and solar, knowing that our AEP or First Energy or Dayton Power and Light or Hancock Rural Electric, whoever services your electric bill or gives you your electric bill, if I reduced my electric bill by $20 because the solar field went into Hardin County, I'd probably be like, pretty good. But because that solar field in Hardin County is funding Facebook's data center, I don't care about Facebook. So, I'd like to see the technology be where how do we take some of that and put it on the grid and help all Ohioans reduce their cost and not just these corporations. I got a better deal. I'll make you a better deal. I'll put Facebook's data center in Findlay and we can put those wind turbines on Jack Nicklaus's course in Murfield and we'll see how they scream down there. That's a pretty good deal. I'll take that deal. Good questions. Next question.
purpose statement. The concern committee for House Bill 3.
Of this general assembly?
Yes.
What's 3? Is this the?
I'll keep
Fill me in.
domestic violence.
Oh, yes, thank you.
House Bill 3 makes it a misdemeanor the second for domestic violence situation that causes abortion or miscarriage. Second degree misdemeanor is usually punishment for something like shoplifting, minor, up to 90 days in jail. So essentially, a domestic partner that beats a woman so badly that she spontaneously aborts is going to have the same punishment as somebody that spray paints your trash can. The punishment for a woman seeking an abortion will be a felony of the 5th degree. That's if it goes through courts. I know it's tied up. This is punishable by 6 to 12 months in jail. This does not make sense to me that somebody else can end my pregnancy and be punished less severely than I would be for ending mine for any reason. I just kind of want you to take that into account as you're going through the phases of.
Are you supportive of 3 or against 3?
I am supportive of 3.
Supportive of 3.
Yes, I want harsher punishments for domestic violence.
That's easy to.
Yeah. And these are just more of talking points of, hey, you know, we need these punishments to happen. My next one is, again, back to punishment.
Hang on a second, on 3 court, I vote up or down on 3?
You're not in that committee?
Oh, it says.
I have you down as a co-sponsor on your site,
Okay.
as a co-sponsor.
I just get confused between last general assembly and this general assembly.
Yeah, so, yeah, it just switched. Next, in 2019, you guys had voted to table the loopholes on marital rape. It's back with House Bill 121.
Okay.
Okay. It's reintroduced. We know that there's loopholes for Ohio that need closed. A spouse can't be convicted of raping a partner that was drugged or otherwise incapacitated. They're basically not getting punished for rape, maybe domestic violence, but rape's left out of
I think we
it.
paused that bill because we knew we had to fix some of the.
It was coming down to, I believe, the ages of marriage and whether a spouse could testify against their spouse. Asking that you close these loopholes. It's been too many years. We've been fighting with this for, I don't know how many times it's been actually turned down. I know of 2017, 2019, and now again, it's brought back up. And every time it's been pushed back down. You'll be surprised to find that these loopholes were actually closed in Russia in 1922. That's how behind we are in Ohio. So we need to get these loopholes closed. We need the punishments to happen. Too many women are going without justice. So.
Nothing I can disagree with you on. We'll certainly try to do our best to encourage our caucus to move forward on this.
Thank you. We appreciate the support of just getting this done.
Yes, ma'am.
Representative Cross, thank you for being here again tonight. I personally know you've been here twice in a week. You were at Jeff Hunter, President, Hancock County Township Association. You were here last week at our county meeting, along with Senator McCauley. You gave us a very good discussion on Senate Bill 52. As a township official, I like to be able to speak for my constituents. My township does not have one of the solar fields potentially up. Senator McCauley shared very well that it was very, very hard to keep the trustees as the ones that had to vote. So that's why it went to the county commissioners. And you stated very well, a lot of those individuals do not want the solar panels in their field or their property, but they want the money, obviously. I guess the next thing is, I fully support you on your bill as far as the dumping of sewage into Lake Erie. I know the governor has gone to extensive efforts with the H2 Ohio program to help farmers, which many farmers, I myself am not a farmer, but I work in the ag industry. I create fertilizer prescriptions to farmers. This day and age, most farmers are doing variable rate applications. They're not just putting straight poundage across everywhere. They're only putting it where it's needed. So I know that the townships are receiving some of the American Rescue Plan money. That was quite a fight. The cities thought we were taking money away from them, which we were not. We typically do not have some of the things that qualify for American Rescue Plan money. Ideally, they talk about clean water. It would be great if we could use those monies to clean some ditches. There's many ditches in this county that haven't been touched in years. I don't know if that will even be an option, but I think if you can put pressure on these cities, especially Maumee, Port Clinton, Sandusky, and even here in Findlay, that are receiving enormous amounts of ARP money, put that money towards sewage improvements and not just replacement of lost funds. That is an option for that money. If you can continue to put the pressure on, it would be greatly appreciated.
House Bill 168, such good help, all these numbers, it's just easier to talk about the issue. 168 dedicated about $400 million to local communities, and of that, $250 million for water and wastewater infrastructure. So we certainly understand there's infrastructure, and we need to continue to ask Congress and the federal government if they're going to send us these dollars or send our tax money back to Ohio. We can actually use the money. Okay, they make it so complicated. They say, oh, no, here's $1 billion, but you're like, it takes 20 lawyers and 20 CPAs, and they're like, we can't do anything with the money. So number one, allow us to use the money. Number two, we hope that we can be dedicating some of this money for water and wastewater services. On 52, you know, it also comes down to, I support personal property rights. You know, if a farmer wants to incorporate renewable energy into his or her farmland, they certainly should have a right. They certainly have got a right to build a barn. However, there are two Democrats from Toledo that introduced legislation that would prevent our farmers from building future permits for future livestock barns. So our farmers once again are under attack, and it is a thread the needle issue where I'll have 50% on one side and 50% on the other, and they'll argue renewable energies until they're blue in the face, but I do generally support personal property rights. And our farmers in Hardin County had a tough time swallowing the issue of taking 4,000 acres out of the marsh fields and the muck, beautiful soils for carrots and whatnot, and putting solar panels into it, but that's what that farmer wanted to do. And then they found out how much they're gonna make over 30 years, and it was a lot more than cash rent on farming, and they're like, that's what I wanna do. So, you know, it's tricky to navigate these waters, but, you know, I certainly respect our landowners. I mean, I got a field behind me. And my friend that owns that field, you know, 2 years beans, 2 year corns, and he could put a hog barn behind it. And I might not like it, but that's his property, and he can build a hog barn. So, you know, I think the debate is, you know, losing farmland to farming operations and losing great ground to feeding the world, to supplying our world's energy. And I'm sure the debate will go on forever, but we certainly want to make sure that we have some local voices in that process. Thank you for your comments, and we're pleased to continue to support our trustees. And not every state, I don't know how the federal government does it, but some states, some townships got money, other states didn't get townships, so we made sure our Ohio townships got some of the federal money.
Hi, John. Thanks for coming out tonight.
Sure.
Congratulations on getting more money back towards the schools.
It's a big effort from a lot of people.
Yeah, you were talking about your grandfather. You talked about his grandson.
Yeah.
And what I found, for instance, I have a grandson that when he was in the Findlay City school system, you had the STEM program available to him. He moved out into the counties it wasn't. And my issue is with the declining education system we have in our country. You see our scores going down compared to the world, etc. Is there any way that you could, with this money, encourage STEM programs into the counties and surrounding areas instead of just the mega schools?
Yeah, we actually, as the chairman of the higher ed committee, the adult career and high school career schools, we increased their funding line items to get more money. Certainly, Millstream here in Findlay, Ohio High Point. You know, when I went to school, that's where you put the bad kids on the bus, and that's where you sent the bad kids. But today, it's phenomenal the skills that they're learning in the classroom through some of these career tech centers. I'm all for it. I'm 120% behind them. Any way we can get more funding, any way that we can get more schools to participate. If it takes transportation costs, access, I'm all for it, because kids are learning great skills and they're getting employed today, and they're getting great jobs, and some just feel they don't need to go to get a 4-year degree to be successful.
Well, the STEM program is more of the technology aspects and more of an accelerated issue anyways.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even in any of these jobs that's happening, the technology is just there. I mean, the manufacturing of our gear shifters in Ada, Ohio for Honda and Nissan, the technology goes into that, let alone, Whirlpool and other companies around here. It's phenomenal when you go to any of these manufacturing facilities, the level of technology and I usually ask the HR folks, what kind of math skills do you require? And I'm surprised to hear algebra and some other high-level skills. So it's so important that we get these kids on the right track for math and reading. And two, can they shake your hand? Can they look you in the eye? Can they say your name? And can they say, hi, my name's John Cross, I'd like to come work for you? Is that not hard to teach in our schools? Because right now it's like, hi, how are you? Get the kids out of these.
One more thing, if I may. I'm sure you and Ron understand as far as common sense, it has a lot in common. And the Florida legislature put on his desk, and he signed a document basically that they're going to hold social media companies responsible if they ghost politicians during the course of the election.
Sure.
You've got a large social media background and a large platform. Would you support that kind of legislation coming out of the Ohio legislation?
Yeah, I wouldn't see. I'm trying to think if we have that now in the legislature. Well, look, if it does, sure.
Where you held the social media as far as even liability?
Yeah, mostly it's around the federal laws and policies, but I know there were some states that were looking into doing some stuff, and absolutely. I mean, it's a double-edged sword. Social media is great to tell you all about tonight and how to get here and community events, and hey, don't forget the Macomb Cookie Festival's coming up, and the Arlington Parade's coming up, and there's double-edged swords to all this. So it's helpful to have some of these tools to get the word out, but there's always the side effects of all that stuff too.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. So what we're going to do too is we're going to welcome a few more questions. I'm going to try to give a little faster answers, and we're going to wrap it up because I know people want to get home.
Hi, Mr. Cross. My name is Bev, and I'm from Philly. I do want to thank you for coming out and doing this. We appreciate that you're willing to come out and speak to your constituents. So thank you for that. So during your town hall last week, you said local school boards defy mask mandates, causing them to lose government funding. You would find the money to make up the deficit. I remember you said something similar at the end of your school levy meeting about finding the money if the levy failed to pass. So what I want to know is, what is the source of this money? Also, can you guarantee the school districts that choose to go rogue will be given enough money to make up the difference? Also, I'm sure the boards would like that the guarantee that before making a decision, and to know it's not just an empty promise. And then lastly, and is it not concerning that this will set precedent for school boards to feel they will not have to follow future state mandates?
Yeah, so last week at a town hall, and I will criticize my own self, I made a little tongue-in-cheek comment like, hey, don't, if the feds don't fund you, we'll take care of it, because the school districts are tied to state funding and federal funding, and certainly, I don't think we would ever be able to compete against the federal funding, so certainly a little tongue-in-cheek comment there. But the state funding we do control, and it's just a matter of how do you prioritize a $70 billion budget? And I think we do have the money, and we did increase Van Buren's budget a little bit through the school fair funding formula. And it's just a matter of the first dollar that we put in the state budget. And I believe if you really want to focus on school funding, everything that we fund in the budget, are we going to start to prioritize our education funding first? And that's how I would fund our state commitment.
But if they lose their funding because they don't comply, where are you going to come up with that money?
From the feds? From the feds, they probably won't be able to. Again, a tongue-in-cheek comment that I make that, I really think, if they don't comply with the feds, they can, it's their choice. They may lose the federal funding because of that. But again, we are hearing that the debate of school transportation, whether kids have to have masks on school transportation or not, is an issue that the lawyers are fighting out. So I let the lawyers duke it out and see what happens there.
But if you're encouraging that, do you think that's setting a precedent for school boards then to justify whatever that they don't agree with in the future?
I think school boards would probably know that, politicians are going to make tongue-in-cheek comments. They know that we're there for them generally and there to help them out and support them, and we certainly have a huge chunk of funding. I'm trying to think how much total the state budget we put towards education, but I think in pre-K through 12, it's close to 30% of the state budget that goes towards education, so it's a pretty hefty chunk.
So that was just tongue-in-cheek, and there was like no substantial behind it?
Well, if a school district says to the feds, sorry, we're not going to follow your rules, and they would lose federal funding, I don't know the steps to that, but that would be probably a big number for someone to make up. It depends on the school district. But again, I really encourage our school board members to make the decision what's best for their school districts. And
but even at maybe losing the funding.
I don't know how it all works. I just don't know enough to give you an answer of would they really lose funding, or is that just a political threat from Washington, D.C.?
But shouldn't they know that before they make that decision?
Well, they hire lawyers. I'm sure the lawyers can figure it out.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next question. And we'll finish with the gentleman in the red shirt last, and then I'll stick around for a few minutes afterwards.
My name is Ryan Freed. I live here in Findlay, Ohio. And I just don't think it would be a proper town hall if we didn't talk about the Second Amendment at all.
I was waiting for it.
I'm an American. I'm an American. I've got red, white, and blue blood in my veins. I serve my country, and I live in a constant. I live in a constant state of wondering if the next mass shooting or if the next incident where a maniac uses a gun to commit a massive amount of homicide at one time, especially with the federal government that we have now and as much control that they have on the left. Is Ohio doing anything to try to, I'm more of a proactive person than a reactive person. I don't want to wait for the federal government to say we can't defend ourselves anymore. Is Ohio doing anything along with some other states to try to curb that? I've heard some talk about being Second Amendment sanctuary states, things like that.
Some counties have done that. I think there's a bill to become a sanctuary state. Any Second Amendment, pro-Second Amendment legislation's got my name on it. We have constitutional carry that we would like to see get done in the fall. I think that got sidetracked by COVID. We just passed standard ground. I like to think that Ohio is a very strong Second Amendment state, and we intend to keep it that way.
All right. So to your knowledge, you don't know of any legislation that's going to basically tell the federal government that Ohio is not going to listen.
I think
when it supersedes our constitution.
Yeah, I think that's the intention of sanctuary state legislation that's out there now.
All right, thank you. Keep doing it.
Hi, John. I'm Bob Ludwig, live here in Findlay, and I don't know if you had a chance to see the Courier today or not.
Don't read the Courier much.
Okay, well, I would recommend you have your staff get a copy of it to you, because the key that hit me this morning when I read it was an increase in the COVID Delta cases are now a substantial increase. And it includes Hancock County, Seneca County, Wood County, and another article regarding our coverage of healthcare facilities for the elderly, regarding the lack of workers that have opted to take the vaccine. And as you well know, the vaccine has its origin from President Trump's drive to get it done quickly. And it's done.
And correct me if I'm wrong, please anyone tell me. It's my understanding that the current vaccinations do not, it was my understanding that the current vaccination is not bulletproof, like flu shot's not bulletproof. And number two, that this vaccination also does not stop the variant.
It drastically decreases the symptoms that you suffer from.
Which, have you talked to the medical people at the hospitals that you represent?
I have.
And what is the message they're saying about if you have a choice to fight the COVID, original 19 or Delta, what was their response to the best way?
I haven't talked to them yet about the Delta variant. Certainly would be happy to, but in our recent conversation, they were just encouraging people. There is a pro-vaccination message that both the CEO, the new CEO of this hospital here in Findlay, and Ohio Health, I think Ohio Health has mandated the vaccination for all their employees now.
That's what I
So the message I've heard from the hospitals was just a message of we're encouraging people to take the vaccination.
And we have heard from our former president, Trump, say that the vaccine is effective. Have you heard that?
I've heard a lot of things.
Well, have you heard that comment that President Trump indicates the vaccine is effective?
I mean, I don't know the time frame when he was the president, possibly.
No, just in the last month and a half.
I've stopped paying attention to that.
Okay, so I'm asking.
I've talked to my father-in-law about it. He's a doctor, and I've talked to him about it. He says, I think it's stupid we're wearing masks as everyone's trying to get vaccinated, and now we got to put masks on. He thinks it's dumb.
But
And he's a doctor. And then he says, oh, by the way, John, when you go talk to other doctors, they all work for hospitals, and then those who have a distant opinion are going to be silenced because they work for their employees. So I'd like to talk to a private practice doctor because those really don't exist anymore. My father-in-law was a private practice doctor. Now they work for all the big conglomerates. And so what you really want to do is, because trust me, I had a pediatrician call me and say, John, this is horrible that our children are wearing masks. I said, doctor, can you go publicly? He said, no, this is my job. So give me medical professionals that are not tied to big healthcare corporations, and I'd like to ask them that question.
So when the health directors of Seneca County, Hancock County, Wood County, the persons in charge of running homes for the elderly, in today's paper are saying the best thing that's available for us that we know works is the vaccine, masking,